Philly Pressbox Radio is a sports talk show. As you know, though, I try to sneak in a little music talk once in a while. And Philly has some great music radio stations and DJs. And I'm going to have what I'm sure will be a fun chat with one of them right now. Let's say hello to this guy, Cadillac Brent Porche. How you doing, Brent?
Hey, Chad. How you doing, man? Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, man, I'm doing awesome. Brent, I've met you many times over the years. We've talked some sports, we've talked music, we've talked about our radio histories, but I never really asked you about your background. Where'd you grow up?
I'm a Delco boy through and through. I graduated from Springfield High School in Delco. Just actually bought a new house where I'm hanging out in Delco, and Delco to the bone, just like Casey boy, very much so.
Well, in doing my extensive research for our chat, that's a lie. There's no extensive research. I discovered that you're a 2017 inductee into the Springfield Educational Foundation Arts Hall of Fame. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So when I sign my autographs now, I do Brent Porche HOF 17 on there.
Nice. I love it. Well, speaking of the Hall of Fame and sports, which of the Philly teams do you follow the most? I'm guessing the Eagles.
Well, you can see my hat right there. I got a Phillies representing, also P for Porsche. Eagles, very much so, yes. Love me some Flyers. Both of my brothers are hockey players, and my family has season tickets to the Flyers. You know, Sixers have been very exciting the past few years, you know, especially we were trusting the process for all that time. It's nice to see it come to fruition. I just did a really cool event with the Philadelphia Union. I'm a former collegiate soccer player.
Wow.
You know, so I love our Philly sports. I mean, every single one of them, and it's just exciting. And obviously during pandemic times and lack of games and people at events and stuff like that, I'm very much looking forward to getting in an arena or getting into Lincoln Financial Field or, you know, even Citizens Bank Park to take in the sights and the smells and the ambiance, man. I miss it.
Well, speaking of events, here's a picture of you and some old guy at an event in the fall of 2019. I remember that night well.
Yep. 2019 was the year of the Fu Manchu. I don't have many pictures with a crazy handlebar mustache like that. So it's like, why not? But yeah, 2019 was the year of the Fu Manchu.
Yeah. Hey, did I see that you were out at Chicago Soldier Field for the infamous double doink playoff game?
Yes. Oh my gosh. The crazy part about that was me and my buddy Roger, we flew out the morning of the game. We went to the Eagles bar in Chicago and we drank like crazy in the Eagles bar. And then we Ubered over to Soldier Field. We were at the double doink game.
43-yard attempt from the right hash mark. And he hits the upright again. That's impossible.
And I'll never forget it. Walking out of that place, people were screaming at us. They were so mad, not only with their team, but they were yelling at us. Of course, we had all our Eagles gear as we were walking through the crowd. And dude, as soon as the game was over, we hopped in an Uber. We went back to the airport and flew right back to Philly. We were just there for the day.
Wow, that is wild. Well, speaking of the Eagles, are you as disappointed as I am about the whole Carson Wentz saga and the way that went down?
You know, I have a Carson Wentz jersey, like the on-field jersey with the sewn-on numbers, and I didn't even take the tags off. It's hanging in my closet, and I was waiting for a reason to wear it. You know what I mean? And it's such a shame that it had to happen that way and it all went down that way. I hope Jalen Hurts is the real deal. I'm not expecting much of the Eagles this year. I still love them to death, but I feel like we still have maybe another transitional year or two before we start heading in the right direction. You know, there's always next year. That's ingrained in our Philadelphia mantra.
So true. Hey, the Philly sports teams also have some great mascots, of course, including the Fanatic and Swoop. And true or false, you were a mascot of sorts in one of your radio jobs. Details, please, Brent.
That's how I got my first job, essentially. When I worked for B101 in Philadelphia, their moniker at the time was Soft Rock and the Most Music. So we're talking Celine Dion and Whitney Houston and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And honestly, it was a job opening. I was trying to get a job anywhere and everywhere. And it was like to be on their promotion staff. And yeah, I was the B for my first year of being a professional radio host, I guess you could say, because I also got my first job as on air was at B101 as well. I did overnights on the weekends, man, at 20, years old, 21 years old, something like that. So I would have taken anything broadcasting, put me on some AM station that you can only hear from 2 miles away. Like, I would have done that in a heartbeat. And I was actually a mascot for the Lions Club. My grandfather was the president of the Lions Club in Springfield, Delco. So I marched in quite a few Springfield 4th of July and Memorial Day parades and stuff like that. I was also Leo the Lion for that as well.
Wow. Yeah, a lot of us started in local radio, small stations, doing all kinds of weird jobs, not making a whole lot of money, working strange hours. And speaking of strange hours, I know you get asked about this a lot. Your regular shift the past 4 years is overnight, midnight to 5 a.m., 5:30. But you also work a Saturday afternoon shift. And then when Pierre takes off, one of his many, weeks that he deserves, you're the guy who fills in, and you work 10:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. What does this do to your sleep schedule?
That's a great question. First and foremost, once I got the overnight job full time 4 years ago, it took me the better part of a year and a half to actually find the proper schedule to get on. You know what I mean? And I come into work about 10:30 at night because I have to do my show prep and all that kind of stuff. And I can't just roll out of bed and go into work. So I go to bed roughly. I get home from work about 6 a.m. I go to bed about 7:30 a.m. I wake up. You might have heard me say on the air last week that I set my alarm for 4:20. That's the truth. I get up at 4:20 each and every day, just because it happens to be 8 hours. Like, I make sure I get 8 hours of sleep every day to make sure that my mind and my mouth and everybody's refreshed and ready to go. And that has really been a key for me doing the overnight shift. But essentially, every single week is that way because I do overnights through Friday, and then I'm on day people schedule from Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then I have to flip it back around to go on overnights again. And this is somebody that doesn't drink coffee. So it's one of those that I make sure that I get a ton of sleep.
Funny you mentioned that. I was just going to say, I lost a lot of respect for you when I heard that you don't drink coffee. What is wrong with you, Brent?
I don't know what I directly correlate it with, but it almost smells like somebody forgot to flush. Like even somebody that's like, this is the most fresh brewed Arabica bean. Like, I don't even know. And the funny part about it is, even if you were to ask me to make the most basic cup of coffee, I probably couldn't. I probably, the sugar in the milk, and even with the ground up stuff and all that kind of stuff, I have no idea. I just know it smells bad and it tastes even worse.
I'm a 3 cup a day guy, but that's just me.
Yeah.
All right, Brent, we know Preston's a big Rush fan. Nick loves Pearl Jam and Dave Matthews. Pierre is a Deadhead. Jackie loves the Stones. I think I know the answer, but who's your favorite band?
Shinedown, of course, but also Dave Matthews Band. Dave Matthews Band was one of my favorite bands growing up, but I see my boys in Shinedown. A cool story about that picture right there is that we were up in New York at Tao Restaurant in New York City, and it was for a preview event for some media people to hear the new songs from Attention Attention. So that's actually inside Tao Restaurant in New York City, where Shinedown actually performed that night. So that's one of the cooler venues and cooler opportunities I've had a chance to sit and hang with Shinedown. But Tao nightclub, New York City, a couple years ago, man, that was really cool.
How many times have you seen Shinedown, do you think?
Or
Smith and Myers, whatever.
And that's a good question as well. I feel like I'm not at 100 yet. I feel like I'm approaching that. But like I said, Dave Matthews Band, I'm well over 100, believe it or not.
Wow.
Like Dave Matthews Band, they come through, they play 3 nights over in Camden, they go play Hershey, They come back in the fall. So they come through the area a whole bunch. So that's why the numbers are a little spiked, and they've been around a little bit longer. But as far as Shinedown is concerned, I've traveled, all over the place to see them, and, I will continue to do so. And they're one of those bands that I'm proud to call myself a fan of, and also be friends with the guys, because to see them from what they were early on in the Leave a Whisper days when the first album came out, to see where they are now, especially with all the new fans and all of the new eyes and ears and stuff on them. Like, I'm so pumped that they're as big as they've gotten, and they're only getting bigger. And people are so excited for what's next from Shinedown. And I really have a feeling that they're going to be up there one day with the Pearl Jams and the Metallicas and all that kind of stuff, really kind of waving the flag for rock.
And I should mention that Shinedown won the People's Vote last fall, winning Rocktober Madness, knocking off bands like the Beatles and Pink Floyd along the way. So
I know we
impressive.
didn't make many friends doing that along the way, but it was very cool that Brent actually called in during the championship round, which was like a total mind blower. But even the people that were rooting against Shinedown were calling in and texting in afterwards and saying, Brent's a cool dude. You know, they got my vote, you know. So, you know what? Honestly, hooray for some new blood. You know what I mean? And for as much as I would have loved to hear a Pink Floyd block or a Led Zeppelin block or one of those kind of things, we got to play 2.5 hours of Shinedown, and we could have gone longer.
Well, Brent, like me, I know you're missing live concerts. Speaking of which, at the end of 2019, I thought, damn, I had a great year. I got to see 15 concerts this past year. And then I hear you on the radio recapping your year. Do you remember how many concerts you saw in 2019? I do. I know the answer.
I don't. 93?
88.
Was it 88? Okay.
That's what you have on your the website anyway.
I knew I was under 100. I think the year before I was well over 100.
Oh my gosh.
It's you know, I could be out every single night and be at an event, whether it be a sporting event, whether it be a concert, whether it be comedy. Especially, I think maybe with the pandemic, people's eyes opened up saying, once we can get back to doing what we can do, I'm seeing everybody. And it's like one of those things that, like, I feel glad that I have been able to see everybody, not only because there's going to be a mad rush for people to go see all these bands and get tickets and all that kind of stuff in limited capacity, but some of these artists and people aren't going to tour ever again, probably as a result, because they're too afraid to go. So just like I live by Pierre's mantra where he just keeps going, like he just keeps going. and so do I. It's like, if the opportunity is there, you might as well take it. But on the flip side, that means I got to get up extra early to then go to a concert before then I go to work at night to work for, 6 hours. So
sleep is overrated. Don't worry about it.
Ain't no rest for the wicked. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right, Brent, I warned you about this. We're going to finish up with a game of Fast Five. 5 questions, 5 simple answers. Try to keep them brief, and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
All right. Other than Super Bowl 52, what's your favorite Eagles memory?
Going to the NFC Championship game where the noise was so loud that they could hear us over in Jersey. I mean, it was madness. But yeah, I was out in Vegas for the Super Bowl too, and to walk around Fremont Street with my Eagles jersey on after they beat the Patriots, that was damn cool too.
All right, number 2, Brent, you've met a lot of famous rock and rollers, of course, over the years. Which musician have you not met as yet that you would love to sit down with?
Dave Matthews. He just seems like a real cool dude. I want to share a glass of wine with him and, let him loosen up a little bit. And I just think he's a real cool, kind of quirky guy. And I had a chance once to meet him, and they switched my schedule on the air. So I was in for Jackson as opposed to doing the nighttime show. And I missed my one opportunity to meet Dave Matthews, and I've yet to do so.
And by the way, that's a cool frame of you and various other rock and roll celebrities, and just great, hanging in the walls of a WMMR made by Gail, right?
Yeah, Gail, and the the story with Slash, right? In the center picture there.
I don't. I heard you allude to it, but what is this? Go ahead briefly. What is the story with Slash?
Okay, yeah. So this was at the Electric Factory. That was in the backstage room that he was at, and I was the only media personality on the entire. This was the Slash of Miles tour, and I was the only media personality that they allowed to meet him. And I've never met him before. Actually, I have, but not in that capacity. So it's me, his manager, his girlfriend, and him in this backstage room. And as I walk into the room, like a guitar was sitting on a stand, like right inside the door. I trip over the guitar. I knock the guitar over. It wasn't one of his like signature Les Pauls or anything like that. So anyway, we're talking for a few seconds. I gave him a stack of MMR shirts. I saw Slash and Miles over in Amsterdam a number of years ago, so I was making small talk about that. And then he's like, well, hey, you want to take a picture? And that's how he knew my time was done. I mean, this was all in a matter of like 3-4 minutes. Right. And then I went to walk over to him to take that picture, and I tripped on the guitar again, knocking it over, but then it made me fall over, and I landed on Slash. Like he caught me in midair. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And he's like, it's just cool. It's cool, man. Just be careful. And I'm like, I almost killed Slash before his show at the Electric Factory. And I was in like a state of shock after that. And I couldn't even talk. I couldn't believe this just happened. But I have a feeling if I was to meet Slash again later on down the line, I was like, remember that dude that fell on you in the dressing room? He might actually remember me. So we'll see.
All right. Number 3, true or false? You're a fan of both NASCAR and pro wrestling.
Hell yeah.
I
Both
knew
very
it.
much so. I got the market cornered at the station, man. Between NASCAR and wrestling, I got them both of mine.
Oh my. Number 4, as you can see, I'm wearing a Dirty Honey shirt, one of my favorite new bands. Who are your favorite bands of the last 10 or 12 years?
I've noticed the Dirty Honey shirt. Abso-freaking-lutely. I'm so excited. Their new album's coming out. I'm pumped for Nick Perry and the Underground Thieves. I got my Silvertide shirt on. So, of course, I'm a big Silvertide fan. Nick Perry and the Underground Thieves, I think they're absolutely fantastic. You know, we've had such an eclectic batch of new music on MMR lately, from the Des Rocks to the Larkin Poes to, even Wolfgang Van Halen and stuff like that. I mean, I love the harder and heavier stuff. I'm stoked about the new Chevelle and all that kind of stuff too. But I like hearing new stuff. It's like when I hear the same songs over and over again, it's like after a while, it's like, you kind of know what to expect. But I try to at least once a day hear a song that I've never heard before, because it's the anticipation of what's to come in the song without knowing, is there going to be a big drop, or is there a drum solo, guitar solo, whatever. So it kind of cleanses the mind after hearing some of the same stuff over and over again, to listen to something you've never heard before. And I try to do that daily if I can.
And number 5 and final question, what is the best thing about working at WMMR?
Oh my gosh. The fact that I grew up in the area, the fact that Pierre Robert, it's Pierre Robert, I grew up with Pierre Robert, and he hates that I mention this, but like, I was very, very, very young when he started at MMR, and to now be on the air with somebody that's celebrating his 40th anniversary this year. I'm celebrating my 15th anniversary at MMR this year, actually this month, and Pierre's is coming up in November. I always used to say, especially when I was part-time, that I'm just happy to be on the team. And we're on a sports talk here. It's like when Kevin Franzen or Ross Glode or one of those guys was called to be off the bench and fill in for Ryan Howard and Chase Utley and all those guys, they still expect them to perform like anybody else taking the field. So it's like, I don't have to be a Ryan Howard or a Chase Utley. It's like when you ask me to go and perform and step in for the Ryan Howards and the Chase Utleys, like they have confidence in me to do so. There's nothing like MMR in most cities or anywhere else. And so people bring us with us on top of it. So it's like here in truckers in Maine and down in Texas and all that kind of stuff. It's just so cool that like our outreach and everything. And again, I'm just happy to be on the team. It's such a cool atmosphere over there. Everybody, it's a family. It really is. And I think the shortest tenured person at MMR, especially on the air staff, is well over a decade. So, there's not much turnover, and I'm happy to have been there for 15 years now.
Well, Brent, as I knew it would be, this was a blast. Thanks for visiting Philly Pressbox Radio.
Thanks so much, Chad. Thanks for having me, everybody.